Okay, yeah, this is awkward. So, the wrestling prediction I got horribly wrong in 2024 was, I had to look back, found the video. I said I thought CM Punk was going to wrestle MJF at WrestleMania 40. Didn't happen, did it? Not even close. Not even close. My thought process was the MJF contract situation was still a bit up in the air, I think, at the time that we did the video. So I was like, he could still come over to WWE, don't know. No, he didn't. He got a tattoo of AEW. Yep, that was bad. That was me being an idiot right there. And then Punk didn't even make it in the ring in WrestleMania. Nope, he ripped up his triceps and was on commentary. He was just sat there with his little sling, so could not have been further from what would have happened. But I stand by it. WrestleMania 40 would have been the undisputed GOATed best WrestleMania ever if you would have had Punk and MJF there as well, like just reuniting and then reigniting their feud, their epic feud. It would have been awesome, but it didn't happen. And what we got instead worked out pretty well, because obviously Punk was, apart from the injury, which is horrible, and kicked off all the Drew stuff and the Seth stuff, and that was like a nice little three-way rivalry that's still somewhat going on. I feel like the Punk Rollins stuff will probably play into this year's WrestleMania, probably. That's another prediction. I mean, it's not that bold. I think it's probably going to happen. And MJF has had an alright time in AEW. Like, we saw him at All In against Will Ospreay. That was pretty cool. Like, I didn't predict that at the start of 2024, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, I'm not very good at this. Clearly, I'm not Mystic Morgan. The prediction aged like a pint of milk, and I will now go and drink a pint of sour milk, at least a year-old milk, to just pay for my crimes against predictions, because that was not good, sorry.
What prediction did you get horribly wrong in 2024?
I get most of my predictions wrong, to be honest, in every single year, but the one that I was particularly hinging a lot of hopes on was the idea that the Continental Classic would change AEW for the better. I love the Continental Classic, especially the first tournament. It just had so many of my favourite guys in it, having great matches every week. Danielson, Kingston, Brody King, Mark Briscoe, loads and loads. Everyone in it rocked, right? And Tony Khan did the big rah-rah speech. He came out and said, put your money where your flippin' mouth is before the thing. People did put their money where their mouth is. The Continental Classic was a reasonable TV draw for AEW, particularly when Bryan Danielson was on in the ring. And kind of look what happened. I think AEW rode it quite well in kind of, and when you say things like put your money where your mouth is, he's talking about the identity of the company, right? And eschewing things like getting rid of things like the Devil storyline, which made me miserable, and various other sports entertainment-like trappings, WWE 2019-like trappings that had filtered into the product. And the first few months of 2024 were really, really strong. I think up to the Mercedes debut, a big business with the Sting retirement story and everything else going on around that, like, and Samoa Joe kind of reclaiming the world title and having a great short run, and like the emergence of Swerve as like a true main event company carrying guy. It was fantastic. Good couple of months. After that, no real meaningful change. Things started to peter off. People started to show up on TV, get title shots out of nowhere. People would show up for 2 weeks, get hot, and then vanish. A lot of people lacking direction on the roster. Hangman and Swerve, great story, but around it, a lot of nonsense a lot of the time, unfortunately. So I thought genuinely that the Continental Classic was going to remake this company's image as a sport-centric, wins and losses matter, rankings here to engineer various programs, minimal run-ins, minimal interferences, minimal distractions, minimal roll-ups, all of that silly stuff. I thought they were going to do all away with that, use this as a catalyst for positive change, back to the version of AEW that still gained viewers, the sports-centric wrestling first focus. And instead we're kind of back to, well, I mean, it's like square -3 at this point, because it's gotten even worse, I would say, in 2024. So big personal disappointment to me, and I really hope that this Continental Classic actually turns it around.
The OTJ doesn't get many things wrong, Michael Hamflett, but I'll hold my hands up and say that I was incorrect when suggesting that my favourite tag team ever, the Iiconics, were going to return to a WWE ring in 2024. In my defence, we filmed these on the build to Christmas, and I believe it was Christmas Eve last year that Cassie Lee announced that her and Sean Spears were having a second child, which, kind of took her out for the majority of 2024. I'm not one of those idiots that think, well, you're giving birth at Christmas, I guess you're going to win the Royal Rumble then. It takes a little bit longer for that sort of thing, but I'm just going to scratch out the number and change it a little bit. My prediction now is the Iiconics will return to WWE Ring in 2025 because Jessica McKay has one child, Cassie Lee has two now, and hopefully they're going to be returning to a wrestling ring next year, because I think they could bring that much needed bit of banter to AEW, to WWE and AEW as well. I believe they need it. I think it's going to be a return to WWE for them in 2025. Fingers crossed.
Do the voice.
Oh, iconic!
Yes.
I said in March that AEW was back. Oh, maybe unicorns are real as well. What a gullible mark. Here's why. I associate peak AEW not necessarily with great matches, because they can still deliver those on pay-per-views. I associate peak AEW with a really dorky level of creative and narrative detail that makes me think they are really thinking about this. It's a total passion project. It's so dialed in creatively that they can just take the piss and have real fun with just how many little details they can add to this process. So at Big Business, or in and around Big Business, the Young Bucks had decided to become EVPs. This hadn't become this really flanderized, awful takeover deal yet. They were just sort of obsequious middle management types, and it played into their obnoxiousness, and I thought this is an encouraging direction. Weeks prior to the reveal of Kazuchika Okada, they had threatened to fine Eddie Kingston. This was perfect because Eddie Kingston is exactly the kind of hothead who would take the actual bills, the money, pay it up front, and be really aggressive about it. He did this to the Young Bucks, summoning Kazuchika Okada, whose arrival had been foreshadowed at Revolution when the Young Bucks wore the big Okada gowns and the business cards rained down from the ceiling. I'm thinking, right, the Young Bucks who've been checked out since Brawl Out, this feels like them really embracing something, and these guys at their best were so good that they literally changed the world. So Eddie Kingston pays the fine up front. Okada's arrival, foreshadowed by the Young Bucks, actually happens on this episode of Dynamite. He beats up Eddie Kingston, setting up the Continental title match and victory, but because Eddie Kingston is like, I'll pay you the money then, go on then dickhead, gives him the money, that allows Matthew Jackson to pick up the money and mimic the Rainmaker pose. That was peak dorky but really, really thoughtful AEW stuff. This also converged with, we've got Mercedes money, are getting Will Ospreay, Okada's here. That mirrors 2021 and the Punk Danielson Adam Cole signing spree. They had a great angle with Jay White injuring Darby Allin's foot. He can't climb Mount Everest, as it happens, he actually couldn't, but that was that's big heat, big detail, big stars, and this was on the back of the absolutely euphoric Sting retirement match. That was just a seminal wrestling moment. I'm thinking, this is back 2 months later. You get Hologram winning 10 matches and not sniffing a title shot. Emi Sakura, who hasn't won a singles match since Dark Elevation was a thing, just suddenly getting a title match with Mercedes Money around about the exact same time. You have Hangman Page beating someone up and ruining a match and getting rewarded with a main event title shot. Total and utter slop. Tony Khan is so feckless and suggestible that he can literally not decide whether AEW is where the best wrestle or if it sucks and it needs saving by the Death Riders. It continues to be a mess. It was a false dawn. I'm an idiot, and it's not happening again.
Look, I am an optimist with my pro wrestling, but I'm also a pragmatist. Bookers have runs, and that's always been the case, and it always will be. And as a result of that, and what I thought was reasoned critical analysis of my favourite wrestling show, I thought the Fed would go cold after WrestleMania 40, and it's boiling hot, it's piping hot. I would argue that in very, very small and measurable ways, some things have started to tail off as we head into the winter season of 2024, but then they're going to go to the goddamn moon at the start of 2025, thanks of course to Netflix of Saturday Night's Main Event, the Rumble to WrestleMania season, which is traditionally like the hottest time of year in WWE anyway, but on the evidence of 2024, the run that Triple H is on shows no signs of slowing down right now, at least. What really impressed me about 2024 was not just his ability to finish the story with Cody Rhodes in spectacular fashion at WrestleMania, but was how he, and I think this was sort of evidenced on reflection of SummerSlam 2024, book from Mania to SummerSlam, and then from SummerSlam to Survivor Series. Survivor Series isn't in a stadium yet, but it feels like he is using these big four events as sort of like tent poles for his creative directions. You can almost see how the people were set up over those summer months to get them ready for such an angle-heavy, star-driven SummerSlam. The same again could be said for a Survivor Series featuring 2 War Games. I don't even like War Games, but you couldn't not get hyped for the sheer presentation of the main event and the way in which all the women's storylines kind of coalesced to allow for that match to even make sense. We're in it now as we enter Royal Rumble season with barely even a conversation about the Royal Rumbles, plural, because you've got Saturday Night's Main Event, you've got the Netflix debut. When we hit the Rumble, it's of course going to be full steam onto WrestleMania then, like it always is, but never has my sort of faith been more restored that in the aftermath of WrestleMania, there will be more to look forward to. I would be dumb to predict that WrestleMania 41 will be the end of Triple H's run, because I kind of predicted it twice at the last 2 WrestleManias and was wrong both times. The run will come to an end. The good times, if you're a Fed fan like I am, will one day come to an end. That is just how business works. But I'd be foolish and naive at this point to yet again forecast that a WrestleMania will be the beginning of the end for the game, for the exec producer, for Mr. Paul Levesque himself.
So a wrestling prediction I got horribly wrong in 2024, and it's one I'll make for 2025 as well, because we have to manifest this stuff, is that Miro would win a world championship, or some form of championship. Instead, he was barely on television. So, couldn't have got that one more wrong. I'm not going to sit here and speculate as to why that is. Again, there's rumours out there, but I don't know, and I don't want to stoke the fires. But it is a massive shame. Really over the last 2 years, or ever since he signed with AEW, the first year was okay. We just haven't really had much with him, so you have to imagine there's an impasse there, there's a falling out, whatever it may be. It just sucks, because in terms of modern day wrestlers, when Rusev was on top of the world and when Miro was doing his Redeemer run, just think he's fantastic. I really like him. We talked about this before when WWE was booking him badly. It must have been like 10 years ago now. I stuck pictures to my face that said save Rusev because I got strange brain and I need help massively. But I'm still going to predict him in 2025. Where he ends up, I don't know. There was that other rumor that he asked for his release, and I think AEW is not going to do that, which is their prerogative. But certainly as a fan, it would be great if somebody doesn't want to be there, you just let them out into the wild. And that goes from WWE as well. It's a business practice that, it's just not fun if you're a fan, because you want to see your favorites do their thing. So, horribly wrong is an understatement. It was a total and utter disaster.
Cast your mind back to 2023. Ricky Starks won the Owen Hart Cup. He was positioned as one of the faces of AEW Collision, aligned with CM Punk and FTR, screwed over Punk, pinned Punk twice, also was involved with Ricky Steamboat and Justin Thunder Liger, and was set to work the big pay-per-view match against the Punker for the real AEW World title. Of course, All In led to CM Punk getting fired, but even then, Ricky Starks was paired up with Bryan Danielson, the two putting on a stunning strap match at All Out, plus a really, really good Texas Death match on Collision as well. The point being, even when the Punk feud collapsed due to that firing, Starks was still in the spotlight in a big way. With those Danielson matches, they are just both absolutely excellent, genuinely top tier in the match of the year conversations for 2023. Even when Ricky Starks was put in the tag ranks after that with Big Bill, absolute Ricky Starks made the absolute most of his minutes, as did Big Bill, with that team becoming one of the best in AEW and, of course, winning the tag team titles. So, going into 2024, it looked for all the world that Ricky Starks, in my eyes, was set to remain in and around the main event scene. And for me, I predicted that Starks, yes, would become the AEW World Champion by the time 2024 was out. Of course, how wrong was I? With Ricky only wrestling 5 matches for AEW in 2024, the last being back in March. 5 matches, man. That's just absolutely ridiculous. As the Stroke Daddy has said in several interviews now, and just to clarify, it was ourselves at WhatCulture who first spoke to about this. He has been fit and healthy this entire time, and he's no idea why he's not being used on AEW TV. Despite not using Ricky though, AEW has added time onto his existing deal due to injury, meaning he'll be with the company until somewhere in the middle of 2025. Likely while still continuing not to be used by AEW. So, rather than the AEW World Champion as predicted by yours truly, that prediction sadly proved to be way off. Mainly because Tony Khan is a petty man. But hey, Starks will absolutely kill it if and when he lands in WWE.